What is flow? Flow is it's a cognitive state where you are feeling and functioning at your very best. So there's a lot. There's a lot that goes into it. There is the what you actually experience is you're experiencing things like intense, deep focus. You lose track of time. You lose time perception in that, right? You have a loss of self-consciousness. You're no longer thinking about what are other people thinking about me on this, or is this a great thing I'm producing, or is this a stupid thing that I'm producing? Or people are going to make fun of me. You lose all that. You have cognitive clarity. Things come to you easily during that.
Welcome to Grow Think Tank. This is the one and only place where you will get insight from the founders and the CEOs of the fastest growing privately held companies. I am the host. My name is Gene Hammett. I help leaders and their teams navigate the defining moments of their growth. Are you ready to grow?
Today we're going to talk about productivity, but not the way you normally used to it. Today we're going to talk getting into flow state. If you don't know what flow state is, you're in the right place, because we're going to share with you not just what it is, but what gets in the way of flow state and how you can actually connect to it and how you can harness it to get into flow state, to get more done and be hyper focused. My name is Gene Hammett. I am the host of Grow Think Tank. My guest today is Dr. Jason Jones. He is a speaker and a coach as well. We're friends. He mentioned this program, and I said, I just want to have you on because I am very fascinated about flow state and about getting the most out of myself when I'm actually in those moments of work, staying truly focused, hyper-focused, if you will, and getting in a flow state on a more regular basis, I think could be very helpful to my productivity. And for part of my work is not to work, 12 hours a day, but to get as much done as I can in 4 hours or 6 hours or maybe 8 sometimes. That's my goal. So happy to share with you how leaders get into flow state and really connect to a sense of hyper focus with Dr. Jason Jones. Again, I said, my name is Gene Hammett. I am a coach, a speaker, an author, and I help businesses that are facing a new opportunity, a big opportunity, and you want to make sure everything's aligned. Your leadership is aligned, your leadership team is aligned, and we remove anything that's getting in the way of you meeting and exceeding your that big opportunity. And so if you're curious about the work I do, we sit down together, we have a good conversation about what's going on, and I promise it would be the most valuable conversation you have this year if you're willing to lean in and let go of your ego and have a real conversation with someone who's experienced enough to help leaders grow their businesses by 2x, 3x, 4x a year, because that's what I've been doing for the last 12 years as a coach. So just go to genehammett.com and or send me an email, gene@genehammett.com, and sign up today for a free conversation with me about that big opportunity and what's getting in the way. Now, here's the interview with Dr. Jason Jones. Dr. Jason Jones, how are you?
Great. How are you doing, Gene?
Fantastic. I'm excited to have you back on the podcast. It's been a while. Activator is one of the books that I love to recommend to other people. So I appreciate you coming back. Today, we're going to talk about flow state. But before we dive into that topic, tell us a little bit about what you've been up to.
Yeah, man, just keep doing the same thing I've been doing. Last time we talked, and leaning into the coaching work that I do and speaking. So out on the road a little bit, but also the coaching work keeps me home a little bit more so that I have some of that work-life balance that I think we all strive for. But focus in on helping leaders become better at what they do, to harness the gifts and strengths they have, and then to help other people to do the same thing, utilizing the base of neuroscience.
Now, you mentioned speaking. How does speaking currently feed the business and give you kind of the purpose and the mission that you are on right now?
Yeah, I think at least for me and my personality, Gene, I enjoy talking. That's why I got in trouble so much in school growing up. And I'd love those teachers to see me now, right? The ones that always wrote in there, is a good kid but needs to stop talking, or that sort of thing, all through grade school. But that's part of my personality, to share. I like to discover new things and to talk about that, share it, because I do have a heart and a desire to help people to become better, to be their best selves, and then to help other people to become better as well. And so for me in my business, because that is a strength, communication, I believe, is a strength of mine. Curating information together and putting that into an understandable, actionable way of utilizing it is a strength of mine. I think it's natural that speaking does that for me. And so I utilize speaking in my business to be able to think through how I want to help other people and communicate. Then, as I go out and do it and people hear it, oftentimes they will want to know more about that, right? And so that feeds then my coaching side of my business, where I work one on one and then also do some group coaching as well. And then people can take the information that I give them in a short period of time, which is quite honestly a little bit more shallow, right? Because of the time on stage is a short period of time. Coaching then allows me to go deeper with them and then anchor behavior change into their everyday work.
Yeah, I see the same thing in my work. I know we have similar businesses, maybe different kinds of clients that we work with, but it's very similar. And one of the things that I love about the kind of business we have is, yeah, speaking's great and it's fun to get up there and share, but it's also great to hear the results when you're working with people coaching through programs or one-on-one. So today we're going to talk about flow state. Before we dive into actually what flow state is, what are some of the problems you're seeing across the span of leadership right now? And it's more than just leaders, right? High performers and people that are really trying to strive for more are facing a lot of challenges today in today's work.
Yeah, I think more than ever, and we see a lot of data out there that shows that we are in a distractible environment now more than we ever have been. Yeah, technology is a part of that, but it's also culture, Gene. This is a part of our culture, and it's almost the expectation that we manage a large volume of information and decision making and problem solving and do it with speed and accuracy. That's a part of our jobs as leaders, right? And then we take on the challenges that other people have as their leader and help them through that as well. That's a lot. And when you look at the data and you see things like, the average leader is saying they get 2.3 hours of deep work done, completed each day, only 2.3 hours of roughly what most leaders work 9 to 10 hour a day. That's not a lot of it, right? The average leader says they check their email, though, get this, 36 times, not a day, an hour, right? The average leader says that they are interrupted 56 times a day. I know some of your listeners are going, that's all. It seems like it's like 56 times, about every hour, right? And then here's another data point I think you'll find interesting. Over a month period of time, the average leader says that they are a part of 36 hours of unnecessary meetings.
Yeah.
36 hours, right? That's about 8 hours a week, 9 hours a week of unnecessary meetings. So we have a lot of what I like to say a culture that is we're everywhere. We are attending to so much that it keeps us from giving the best of ourselves, the best of our thinking, which when you're a leader, a lot of what you have to do is give good thought to decision making, right? Give good thought to how you're going to interact, how you're going to run your business. And we're being distracted from that. Now, what is the results of that? Well, it's things like leaders feeling stressed, they're feeling overwhelmed, they're feeling like they're behind the eight ball all the time in terms of being able to get things done. They are saying that they lack a lot of ability to focus, that they're easily distractible, that their ability just to be able to say, I want to sit down and get something done is harder now than it ever has been. And then all that, you wrap that up. A lot of times I'll have people come to me and say, I just need help with time management. And whenever I hear that, Gene, that's like a presenting symptom of an underlying root problem, is when someone says, I have a time management problem.
Now, Jason's been talking about time management. Let me just say this to you because I know what it feels like. When you start work on Monday and you know that there's so much that you need to get done, you already feel like you're behind. You're supposed to be caught up, but you never feel like that. That's the way I felt. A lot of my clients have felt that way. So that's the reason why I had Jason Jones on this show, because you've got to get to a place where you are getting your work done so that you can be the leader you need to be. And that means you've got to be able to be really focused and really dialed in, to be hyper focused, if you will, to get the work done so that you can have time to lead others, manage by walking around and do all the things that you need to do, go to those meetings, even though some of them you probably shouldn't be going to, you know what I mean? But you want to make sure that your time management is used well. So check out Flow State, keep diving into this, and I think you'll appreciate what's to come. back to Jason. I love the way you framed it in with the data, and then we went into the emotional side, but I think most people can relate to the emotional side of being unproductive. And you look back at the day and you're like, dang, I wish I would have gotten the one thing I needed to get done, but I didn't have time because of all this stuff. Now they've got to do it at 7:30 or 8:30 at night. One of my clients said something like, I only work half the time, right? He works in the morning and then he works another half of the time after dinner.
Yeah.
When you started studying flow state, give us your best kind of sharp definition, I think, for flow state that would help us really understand what it is. Because I think we've all kind of heard it, but I don't know if we really understand what flow state is.
Yeah. Yeah. I first learned about flow state and the work and theory of Mihai and Mihai back in the late 1990s in graduate school. So I was working on a PhD in psychology, and he had a very interesting theory based on a lot of past research, but it was very theoretical about the idea that your brain has a special mode that it goes into, where it is marked by a state of feeling and also functioning at your highest level when it comes to task completion and task absorption and engagement. Okay. So the way I like to say it, a simple way, what is flow? Flow is it's a cognitive state where you are feeling and functioning at your very best. So there's a lot there's a lot that goes into it. There is what you actually experience is your spirit experiencing things like intense, deep focus. You lose track of time. You lose time perception in that, right? You have a loss of self-consciousness. You're no longer thinking about what are other people thinking about me on this, or is this a great thing I'm producing, or is this a stupid thing that I'm producing? Are people going to make fun of me? You lose all that. You have cognitive clarity. Things come to you easily during that. You've had this before, right, Gene? You've been in that situation when you're probably writing your book. Sometimes we get into group flow where we're talking with another person or a group of people, and we really get in it. Our brain essentially gets in the zone, like the basketball player that is hitting threes left and right, right? Like the quarterback who is on target no matter where they're at and how much pressure they have, they are accurate, and that's what it's like being in flow. Now, I want to say this. There's a lot of other things that mark this. Things like feelings of euphoria, hyper confidence, hyper creativity is all a piece of this. Since what we've learned in the 1990s to now we're talking 30 years after Csikszentmihalyi wrote his book, his initial book on flow. What we now have is more than 200 scientific, peer-reviewed, published articles that are both psychology, biology, neurobiology, as well as neuroscience-oriented studies that now validate and also tell us how we can actually harness flow to become better at what we do, to feel better about ourselves, to thrive in life. And to me, that's why it's so exciting, because I believe this is kind of the next level of human existence.
Can you break down one or two strategies or techniques that allow you to connect to that flow state?
Yeah. So first of all, what I educate people on and help them understand is this is not something you just snap your fingers and you say, oh, hey, I'm in flow state, or we sit down and go, okay, how do I get there? Is this I got to breathe a certain way, or I got to do, here's what we know from the science. And that is there are four kind of phases to get into flow, or to get into flow and be in flow, get out of flow, come back into flow. Okay. The first stage is the struggle stage. And this is where we experience kind of the stress and the avoidance of getting into our deep work, right? We've all been there, right? Where we do not want to sit down and write that email because it's going to take a lot of cognitive thinking. It's going to take work, or we're sitting down to write an article on something, or write a chapter of your book, or whatever it might be. We don't want to do it because it's hard work. This is natural for our brain. Our brain does not want to burn the calories. And this is a natural part of the four-phase process of flow. What's interesting about this is the science shows that we then release cortisol and adrenaline, stress hormone. Adrenaline gets kind of you ready and prepared even for like fight or flight. But then our brain waves are in beta mode, which is kind of a hyper vigilant type of mode, but also is not good. It's not there to actually help us focus. Okay. That's the first stage that we have to get through to get to the second stage, which is release. The second stage of release is where we break through the feeling of struggle, and nitric oxide floods our brain, which actually clears out cortisol and adrenaline. Our brain waves go into alpha mode and then prepares us for flow. And then flow is where we have that heightened focus, clarity, and this is where we have then now our bodies are releasing endorphins. It's releasing anandamide, serotonin, dopamine, those sorts of things that give us motivation and help us then to be able to dial it in to get into that flow period. And the brain waves on this are typically alpha, theta, and gamma, which are very good for focus, but also for creativity and for our highest level of cognitive functioning. Okay. Those are the first three. We can stay in flow period for quite a while, but at some point we tire out of that. Our bodies cannot be in that state over a long period of time. We then have to go to the fourth stage, and that is a recovery mode. And in this is where we fatigue, but then we need to relax. We need to recover during this time. Our brain goes into more delta wave, which by the way is the same waves that we use when we sleep, and then we are recovering. Our brain is going through repair stage. All of that happens in that recovery stage. We have more serotonin and oxytocin in our blood system as well. Okay. And the purpose of that stage is to then prepare us to be able to hit struggle again, release, and flow. Okay. So I don't want to over talk this. So I'm going to stop for a moment because I'm going to give you some strategies around it. But I want to let you know how this function works. And I want everyone to know that you're not weird or dysfunctional if you're having a hard time sitting down at your desk and getting to your difficult work or your flow. All of us, our brains are saying, no, I don't want to do this. Let's be distracted by something else. Let's check the news. Let's see what, our email is telling us, and that makes us feel like we're getting something done. But it actually is what our brain's doing to keep us from burning the calories that it doesn't want to do. So we have to have some strategies that give us through the breakthrough struggle to get to release and flow.
Love the breakdown, the four phases, because it helps us understand that you don't snap your fingers. You kind of got to move through these things, and you've got strategies to help you, I would imagine, get into that flow state. And I know you work with the people one-on-one in this. So can you share with us, like, what they come back and say is the most valuable strategy to get into flow state?
Certainly. So first off, I would say that what I do when I work with my clients, whether in a group setting or one-on-one, is I help them understand that getting through that struggle phase and even compressing that, shortening it, is of high value, right? Because it's uncomfortable. Sometimes it's even a little bit painful to be in that struggle phase. And the quicker we can get through that and get us into flow, the better. And that's what a lot of what I do and work with my clients with is understanding two core things. And that is, what are your flow blockers and what are your flow triggers? Your flow blockers are those things that get in the way of you and keep you basically in the struggle zone. The flow triggers are the things that then, if we put them into place, will actually help accelerate us through struggle and get us into flow more quickly. So I'll give you some examples then of flow blockers. Flow blockers are the distraction that's around us, fatigue, a lack of sleep, and your brain being in a place where it struggles because it does not have the recovery that it needs. It's not in a place where it can be to be able to break through quickly, to get into the zone quickly. Overwhelm, lack of clarity of what your project is, what the outcome could be. That's also one of the reasons why we procrastinate. The lack of clarity, a lack of value. Not knowing why we're actually doing this or thinking that it has some value for us. All these things are flow blockers, right? Having an unhealthy brain, an unhealthy body, those are blockers for you. The healthier that you can be with your brain, the healthier you be with your body, the easier it will be for you to be able to manage the struggle phase, okay? Biggest one of all for this, I believe, is mindset. And that is, how are you thinking about your work? and really having an understanding. If your mindset is one of, I don't want to do this, this is not in alignment with what my values are, this is not in alignment with what my motives are, I don't see a value of the outcome of what I'm doing, that's one of the biggest flow blockers that you're going to have. And so that takes reframing how you look at your work to be able to do that. Those are your flow blockers, Gene. Your flow triggers then are things like very clear goals, a good balance between the challenge and the skill. And there's some ways that we can do that of the work that we're working on, so it's not overly challenging. Our goals aren't too high that we don't feel like we can actually reach them. The focus ritual, that's a great one. Is a flow trigger can be, how do you prepare your brain, and what have you done to create a ritual, a priming method, so your brain knows, oh, guess what? We're about to go into flow mode. We're about to buckle it down here. We're about to get into the zone. And that primes your brain. As great evidence of this from a scientific and neuroscientific standpoint. A vision of completion, being able to take a moment and visualize, what is the outcome? How will I feel in this? What will it look like in this? And then also there's some other things in here related to immediate feedback, if we can get that, and then also creating progress and quick wins that give us the momentum. Okay. Now I've given you a whole bunch of these things, right? Here's what is important. That is for each one of us to look at and say, what are my blockers and how do I mitigate the blockers? Because it's not all of us have all of them, right? It is, hey, is my blocker just the environment that I'm in? I'm in a highly distractible environment. Is my blocker that I'm not getting enough sleep the night before? Is my blocker that I've got a terrible mindset and I've got a victim mindset going on here, and I need to do some things that helps me to manage that, so I'm thinking about my work in a different way. Okay, so understanding your blockers and mitigating those, and then the other side of this is then determining what flow triggers to put into place that work best for you. And it's different with different people. I've worked with people that just having a flow trigger of a routine has been immensely helpful for them. They've used it like Pavlov's dog, right? They condition themselves to, when they do certain things, they go through a process, almost like a professional athlete will do. A military special operations unit puts people and helps people understand how to do this. They know how important it is to lock the brain in and to prime the brain to be able to get into a certain mode or a certain mindset, right? And by doing things like that, creating a routine around that is a great way for some people to be able to start that process and then to shorten that struggle phase and then jump right into flow very quickly.
Dr. Jason Jones, we're talking about, getting into flow state. And I appreciate the strategies behind it, but this is just scratching the surface. I know that you do some work with this, and I'm not, this isn't an affiliate link or anything like that. I'm just doing this because I'm very interested in how this even works within my own work patterns. So tell us a little bit about your program that you have for leaders and high performers that want to connect to that and harness flow state.
Yeah, thank you, Gene, for bringing that up. Yes, I have a coaching program that is called the Flow Advantage, and it is all about what we're talking about here. And it is a group coaching program that combines three kind of core things for accelerated learning. The first one is there is an online self-paced training, virtual training product in this, and it's 6 weeks. It's a 6-week course. And in that 6 week, you learn about all the things we talk about. We go deep in these things related to flow, how to get into flow, how to prolong it. I even talk about in there and give a formula for how to, I call it the 1-day week. And this is how you can do and get more work done in 1 day than most people do all week, and what some of my clients have said that they have gotten done in 1 week. Okay. And we break that down. We show how to do that. And it is extremely a powerful tool for people. In the 6 weeks, they learn all of the things you need to know in an accelerated fashion for putting into practice all these things around flow blockers, flow triggers, how to get through and compress struggle, how to get into flow, stay into flow, how to utilize tools that are available to you to mitigate and all the distraction that are around us. And then also I even have a segment on it around supplementation. So what supplements, so what nootropics what amino acids, and even how we can harness caffeine. And there's a brand new article that's just came out with Stephen Kotler, where it is an exhaustive research on how we can utilize caffeine in an effective way, a safe and healthy way, to actually put us into flow state quicker and to stay in flow state longer. It's very fascinating. That's what the training portion of that is about. But then we also have a group coaching portion of this, and that's over a 6-week period. We get together with everyone in this group, and we talk through how we're implementing this real life. We give them challenges. We support that. We provide accountability in that. You get to meet other people, other leaders, some at even high-level CFOs, CEOs that are a part of this program, and how they are in learning from others on how they can implement this and put this, apply it to their everyday work. And then the third piece of this then is the community factor. And so we have an online community where now we can kind of talk about these things and we can ask questions. And within that, there's a number of different resources that you can utilize and leverage to be able to work on and to apply it and do this over a longer period of time. So although it's a 6-week accelerated program, people seem to really like the idea of 6 weeks rather than 8, 12, 14, 9 months, a year, that sort of thing, because it gives you an accelerated all things you need, but it doesn't stop there. After that 6 weeks is over, you still have access to all of the course. You have access to your community and to the coaching calls and things like that happen through for however long that you want to do that. So that is my next coaching group in this program. The Flow Advantage starts on January 21st. This is 2025. And so there'll be others, but this is the one that starts up next. That's on the 21st, and the deadline to register for that is on the 17th. And so if anyone's interested in being a part of that group, they can, it's okay to give you a link here where they can go. And
yeah, absolutely. And we'll put that in the show notes as well.
Yeah, so it's drjasonjones.com. So it's drjasonjones.com and then /flow. And if you go there, that will take you to an overview, give you all the information you need to know, pricing around it, and all the information that helps you understand what this would mean for you, your investment, how to put it into your work schedule over the next few weeks and whatnot.
Well, I appreciate you being here today to talk about get into flow state, because I know I've experienced it sometime, but I'm more random with it. So I probably need to look at this program for myself as well, because I want to make sure I supercharge the time I'm at work, and then I can relax and recover a lot more time than I am now, because that's part of what's needed based on what you said. Dr. Jason Jones, give us one more time, like that URL if they want to go check out the program.
So drjasonjones.com /flow.
Perfect. I really appreciate you being here talking about the 4 phases. I learned something new, and very curious about the nootropics side of that. So if you guys are interested, go check out the program with Dr. Jason Jones. Thanks for being here.
Hey, thanks, Gene. Appreciate it.
Wow. Another great fun podcast interview here for you. I really enjoy the way he broke down the 4 phases of flow state and talking about the blockers and the triggers. Hopefully you've got enough of this, but I will say again, if you're interested in signing up for his program or just checking it out, go to drjasonjones.com /flow. And if you have any questions about the work we do, if we can help you in any way, make sure you reach out to me, Gene at genehammett.com. And when you think of growth and you think of leadership, think of Growth Think Tank. As always, we encourage. We'll see you next time.